much, yours are Grace, your girl, Katie here, and happy, blessed Wednesday, and happy New Year to you. I hope you had a beautiful, wonderful, blessed Christmas season. I know it's been quite a while since we've been here together, but time flies by. December was honestly left, right, and center, just crazy performing. So that's why I told myself I'm going to talk to you all and spend time with you, not until the new year, so that everything's a fresh new start. And now that we have just surpassed the solemnity feast day of the baptism of Jesus, which was literally 2 days ago, which technically closes in on the Christmas season, here we are. So I hope you all had a beautiful time with your families and spend time with Christ especially. And honestly, this is the time to spend even more time with Christ now that he is with us and he's always with us. And so without further ado, let's get started. Christ, I want to talk to y'all today about being called to holiness. But before I get to that, I want to thank you so much for tuning into podcast episode of Catholic Warriors Talk Show. I'm so blessed to be here with you on this brand new year, on the 2024 year. I can't believe it's already 2024. Like, just me thinking about that is just like, what? And the next thing you know, like, Lent is like next month, and I'm like, what? Already? Anyway, that's just me. But without further ado, so being called to holiness. Now, when you watch my previous episodes, do you always remember how I always love to say, like, we are always called to that universal call to holiness? And you're like saying, like, what? Well, today I want to start this brand new year about answering that call to holiness, because every day God calls us, and what are we doing? Falling into consumerism, materialistic things of this world, and perishing in these things of this world that has nothing to do with God's glory and kingdom. So that is why on the very first podcast episode of 2024, I want to start off with being called to holiness, which is ultimately something that we are always called every single day. And what we got to do next, boldly and confidently, is answering that call, not just sitting back in fear, not just sitting back thinking, well, is it hard? No, for sure. There's going to be beautiful challenges that will come across your way, and that will terrify you and will scare you. But it's for our own good, in order for us to grow. God knows deep down in our hearts that we're not going to move unless we become uncomfortable. You know that very well, because why? You'll feel this sense of complacency, feeling content, like, oh, I'm already good at like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm just gonna chill here where I'm at. No. Every single day, we must strive to challenge ourselves and facing our fears, no matter how hard it may seem. And that is one of the things that we got to start this new year off with, is facing our fears, facing those obstacles, facing those challenges that seem to just scare us and just be like, should I? And then at the end of the day, you're just in this internal battle within yourselves, like, should I not? And then you're just like lying there in the middle of the night and having sleepless nights and thinking like, I don't know if I'm able to do this. I don't know if I'm worthy. Friends, you are worthy before God. All you gotta do is humble yourself before God in Eucharistic adoration, humbly asking for strength, power, and courageousness and fortitude to face those challenges and fears that you have lingering within yourself. So make it a thing for this year to conquer your fears, to face your fears, and to step up to the plate, not just putting it in the back burner of your mind or putting it aside and just forgetting about it and then procrastinating, and then next thing you know, you're like, wait, it's already Christmas again. So not that I'm saying that far, but we gotta think that when it comes to being called to holiness, it depends on following God's will, okay? Not only our intellectual knowledge of the faith, but also allowing ourselves to follow God's will every single day. Think about it. Are you answering God's call today? Are you answering God's will today? Are you following God's will today? Or are you trying to run away from yourself? and run away from God at the end of the day. Right? Humbly ask yourself that question every single day before Christ, before God, and being honest with yourself. Not just being in denial, in the state of denial, like, oh, yes, I am, but then really, deep down you're not. So that is why, think about this way as an example, like quenching your thirst by drinking water. When you're thirsty, it's like, oh, I want to drink water, but then you don't actually read about the water. Well, obviously, maybe sometimes you're like, oh, I want distilled water, oh, I want light filtered water, da-da-da-da-da-da. But you get what I mean. Like, when you are thirsty, you just go for water, maybe sparkling or flat, doesn't matter. But you get my point, that when you want to actually quench your thirst, you go get water. Like I have mine here. But essentially what I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with having that theological knowledge, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. However, my point I'm trying to get across here is that we cannot let that theological knowledge get in the way of that search for holiness, right? You can have all the knowledge in your brain and have all the PhDs and all the master degrees in your life, but think about it. Are you applying that in your day-to-day life, living for God's word and kingdom? Right? I'm not saying walk around ignorant, okay? When it comes to growing deep in your faith, yes, for sure, you are called to read the scriptures, to read the word of God, to read a catechism, and also as well, reading beautiful books that saints have wrote. We must have that knowledge to pursue God's will, of course, which I highly, highly advise to make it a routine every time you wake up. Make it like a morning routine, like you read the daily scriptures, like the mass scriptures, and then let it brew in your mind so that throughout the day when you're working or when you're doing your chores or anything mundane, or if you face certain situations, you know how to respond. And you're not just sitting there like, wait. Or you're not reacting in a rational way. So that is why you must focus on accepting what God discloses from one moment to another. So what do I mean by that? Meaning that if you don't have all the answers now, you leave that to God to disclose it to you according to his time. And humbly realizing and humbly trusting that it will come to you in due time. For sure, yes, it will take time to actually absorb that pill. However, you must run before Christ and just tell him, like, Lord, I'm confused. Lord, I'm scared. Lord, I'm terrified. I know what you're calling me to do, but I'm terrified and scared and fearful that I'm not good enough or I can't do it right. Have those conversations with Christ. So each time you spend time with Christ, the way that you'll follow God's will be a lot easier. And especially running to our Blessed Mother. She went through the hardships and those sorrows. Just think about how she traveled, being pregnant with Jesus, to Egypt on a donkey. Just think about it. She went through her hardships. Of course, they faced hardships and challenges in that journey in itself, physically as well as mentally. But what did she do? She still trusted God every step of the way. She never doubted. She never second-guessed herself. She never got frustrated with God. Be like, Lord, why me? Like, what? Why? No. She just pondered all these things in her heart. So, look at it from that perspective. Whenever you're going through any challenges and obstacles, and especially those fears that just love to speak loud from time to time, or maybe all the time, give all that to our Blessed Mother. She will help you carry your cross every step of the way. She had her cross too. Seeing her son, Jesus Christ, die on a cross, being crucified. How do you think she felt? Right? So that's what I mean. Focus on accepting what God discloses from one moment to the next, right? And the action of God and His grace are all in one. All in one and all in the same thing. The question is, are you enabling yourself to trust in God every single moment of the day? Yeah, for sure. There's always that tendency to take control of our own life and leaving God out of the picture. We're like, Lord, you know what? You can go now. I don't need you anymore. Or like, Lord God, I can take care of my life now. You can. So don't let that tendency corrupt you. Because why? That is ultimately the enemy winning over you. As I mentioned before, whenever you let your fears win, you're letting the enemy grasp on to you more and more like chains. The biggest thing that we must be successful and victorious in doing is breaking those chains of fears that prevent us from pursuing God's will as much as possible. When you know you have certain fears and things that are just holding you back, you break out of those chains. How? Through our Blessed Mother. She will enable you to break those chains so that the enemy will not grasp onto you anymore. So think about it, friends. So perfection is our faithful cooperation with the work of God. Yes, for sure. I know very well that nothing is perfect under the sun. However, having that perfect union with God faithfully and wholesomely is always having that faithful cooperation. How God orchestrates things in your life. You're probably looking at me, well, I'm kind of struggling with that. Well, yes, for sure, there's going to be a struggle. I'm not saying it's just like easy peasy and no. There's always going to be that tug of war because why? That's the enemy trying to pull you back in your old ways. And then you got God here. It's like, no, my child, you can do better than that. So think about it. Whenever you have those internal battles like that, those internal spiritual battles, that's spiritually the enemy trying to hold you back. And you got God, Jesus Christ, and Blessed Mother, and the Holy Spirit, and all the saints calling you to answer the call of holiness. So, what do? We embrace God's designs and orchestrations and His will with what? Humility and simplicity. Stop trying to overcomplicate things. Stop trying to overthink things. Stop trying to think of a variety of different situations that can arise because of your fear speaking. The more you let those anxiety arise, those worries arise, that fear arise, you're literally telling yourself, hello enemy, come work with me today. That's literally what it is. As simple as to put it in that perspective. So that's why in order for us to actually produce more fruit in the eyes of God, being in that divine state is actually humbly submitting ourselves more in God's will. Our Blessed Mother Mary didn't have questions. Well, she did have that one question, like, how is it possible because I'm not involved with the man, essentially. That was the only thing for like a 13, 14-year-old. But other than that, she didn't doubt. She didn't actually tell St. Gabriel, like, hello, why me? Like, why'd you choose me? Like, I'm just a lowly servant. No, she didn't question, she didn't doubt it. And yet, she persevered. She pondered all things in her heart. So that is what we should be doing. Pondering all things, all the events in our heart, and offering all that up to God at the end of the day. Our Blessed Mother Mary did it. She can do it, so can you. So I want for you to actually place this in your heart today. Where God guides, He provides. Let me say this again. Where God guides, God provides. So let it sit in your mind right now. What is the first thought that comes to your mind right now when I say that? Where God guides, He provides. Wherever God leads you, whatever God places in your heart to pursue, He will provide. There's no doubting that. The moment you let your heart doubt that, it's like telling God, like, what? No. Even if you don't see the answers right in front of you right now, He will provide the answers. And it will humble you when the answers come to you unexpectedly. You're like, I'm bad. It's happened to me so many times where I just like, okay, you know what? I'm confused. I'm so like uncertain right now. But the more I was like, Lord, I know and I believe wholesomely and faithfully that I will get the answer to new time, you will have that sense of peace. What is that, my friend? That's called trust. But the more you do not trust, of course, the more you're going to feel worried. You're going to feel anxious. You're going to be like, I need the answer now. Like, I need an answer now so I can, like, make my decision or, like, do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. When you feel that beautiful nudge from our Blessed Mother Mary to do something, even though you're, like, clueless what's going to happen next, go for it. Go for it. Of course. Pray for the strength to do it, of course. And then entrust that everything will happen in God's will and time. So remember, the way of perfection passes by the way of the cross. Now, what do you think about that? The way of perfection passes by the way of the cross. We got to carry our crosses. That's what it literally means. We can't just be like, okay, well, I don't want to carry because I'm too lazy. Like, overcoming your fears is literally carrying your cross high above the sky with confidence and boldness and fiercelessness. That is one of the beautiful things about living your life for God. When you get these crosses that challenge you in different angles to prune your personality, to prune your character, and then you see the transformation from before and after, it's pretty amazing to see. Because why? That's God working in you. And then you humbly accepting those challenges and obstacles and facing your fears is just like, okay, let's do it. Because having that faith in deep in your heart, knowing that you can accomplish anything with God, is a beautiful thing to humbly accept. So each day you wake up, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is your relationship between understanding God's will for you? What is your relationship between understanding God's will for you? Are there limits to your understanding? If so, what are they? I think mostly we can all relate to the fact that we all want to know all the answers now. Yeah, and then just be like, okay, got my security box. I think I'm good now. It's fun when God provides the answers in His time and you're like, oh, I didn't expect it this way. It's pretty fun. Of course, it will just like make you feel uneasy, but once you get the answer and it's like not what you expected, or like if it's even better than you expect, you're like, okay, now I get it. Just think back to those moments when you were just so like anxious and afraid of something, and the next thing you know, you just feel this like relief from God unexpectedly? Just think about those moments. I'm sure there's at least one. Come on. I believe that you have a beautiful life thus far. And I'm sure that there's at least one event that you can recall. Think about it. So, what is your relationship between understanding God's will for you? Of course, there's a lot of answers that we have yet to find out. But it's that simple, unconditional yes that truly matters, which is the core root center of answering that call to holiness. That unconditional yes. Just as our Blessed Mother Mary did. And I love how the year of 2024 actually begins on her day, her feast day, January 1st. It's a beautiful way to start the year with her. Because why? She bore Jesus Christ. And she did not doubt it. She did not doubt the journey. She did not doubt a single grain of just, this is hard. I think I'm just going to give up now. No. She ultimately kept on going, kept on persevering. And even especially that time when she was denied the inn, when she was at the verge of having Jesus Christ, she didn't complain with God. She trusted even more that yes, God will provide. Because God was guiding her. Therefore, God will provide for her in the most humble way matter. So think about it. For sure, when we go through obstacles and challenges and those moments of facing our fears, look to how our Blessed Mother Mary lived her life. Of course, she had some fear left, right, and center, but that didn't stop her. That did not stop her from saying, God, I quit. No. She ultimately gave it all to God, trusted in God to provide for her when she truly needed it. And now, she's up in heaven, glorified. So think about it. We got to, and we must always look to how our Blessed Mother Mary lived throughout her life. Yeah, for sure, she experienced pain and sorrow in her heart. But again, that didn't stop her. That didn't even push her to that verge of just saying, God, I quit. Game over. I'm going to take my life into my own hands now, and you can... God. No. So think about it. When you're in this internal spiritual battle, whenever you face those times, look to her life. And truly learn how she never gave up on that unconditional love for God. So, my friends, we have to think about that. Perfection lies not in understanding God's orchestration, but in submitting to them. You may be looking at me, well, I'm still struggling right now. Yeah, for sure. But let that struggle lead to your victory. Not that struggle and that fear lead to your destruction. That is what truly matters and counts. That struggle and that fear leading you to victory, not to self-destruction. That's why I keep on saying over and over, face your fears. Step up to the plate. When God is calling you to step up to the plate, that's beyond your comfort zone, you go after it. Even though it's terrifying to you. It's like, God, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know, this might happen. Then like this. Just give it to God. The way to find out God's will is by trying. The way of running away in fear is avoiding. And that is not what we're called to do. When we are called to answer that universal call to holiness, is trying. I've said this before. That's the only way to find out if it's God's will. Find out. Try. And see how it will challenge your different avenues. And see what God has waiting for you. The more you allow yourself to hold yourself back from pursuing God's will, is like one day not seeing the beautiful thing that God has in his hand to present to you. Think about it. Whenever you live your day-to-day life, just say, yes, Lord. God, I can't wait how you're going to work in my life today. Actually, a priest once told me that. He literally wrote it down, and I still have it up to this day. He specifically wrote word for word, God, I cannot wait how you work in my life today. And it's just stuck to me like a tattoo, and I can't forget it. Because it keeps me in this sense of hope, rejoicing, and knowing that God has something beautiful in store. Yeah, for sure, there's going to be storms in the middle of that, but there's always going to be something beautiful that awaits. And think about what that thing that God has awaiting for you. It's like, God's like, here, I want to give it to you, but you're like, I don't know if it's like for me. I don't know if I'm like worthy to receive it. Stop having those second question doubts. Stop. That's why it's so important to just sit in silence with Christ in Eucharistic adoration on a weekly basis. It's so important. Because why? When you deepen that relationship with Christ, it solidifies your trust to pursue things that are beyond your comfort zone. Let God give you the power and the strength and the confidence and boldness so that you can ultimately keep on saying your unconditional yes without holding yourself back. Because whenever you hold yourself back, that's literally the enemy winning. You're letting the enemy win. You're letting the enemy be like, nah, I know this is God's will, but like you can just stay back here because I don't want you to see it because I know it's good. Just think about it. The fact that the enemy is trying so hard to hold you back, preventing you from actually seeing what God has in store for you, that's a good sign. Let that be a reminder to you that the fact that the enemy is try so hard to push you away by holding you back from what God has in store, that means you know. That means it's a hint for you that you know it's good. It's good stuff. Think about it. Probably look at me like, whoa, really? Yeah, trust me. So whenever you have those spiritual battles, realize that you are on the verge of breakthrough. That verge of breakthrough is ultimately so beautiful to experience. Allow yourself to see that. So if you're looking at me today thinking like, oh, wait, I think I'm holding myself back. Well, yeah, if you're allowing yourself to hold yourself back, then tell the enemy, step aside, because I know what's behind you. Like God's holding his hand is just, have faith in that. Well, I would say actually, call upon our Blessed Mother Mary to push the enemy aside. It's a lot easier. Through the rosary. And then, what God has in his hand for you will be yours. And always will be yours. So, with that said, thank you so much for tuning in podcast episode. I know it's been such a while, but I'm so happy to be back. And so with that said, thank you so much as always, and God bless. And I'll see you all soon in my next podcast episode. And as I will say in all my videos and all my social media, don't be afraid to be true warriors of Christ. Bye! See you soon!